Greetings. Hello, friends on the internet near and far. Thank you for downloading this episode of Parks and Conversation. We are a rewatch and talk about podcast. There are so many of these. What's one more? Am I right? Or am I right? Am I right? And we're going to talk about the classic NBC sitcom, Parks and Recreation. And my name is Jason, and I'm joined all the way across town by my friend Jeremy. Say hello, Jeremy.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going so well. You know, we're back in the swing of things with school and distance learning and all of that. And it seems like it's going to work for a bit. How's it going for you over there?
Oh, same. And it's raining, which is good.
Right. So you can't even send the children outside for recess.
We couldn't do that anyway with the COVID and the smoke and now the rain. So why change things?
Yeah, you know, just hunker down and we'll get through it. Get through it. So today we're going to talk about season 2, episode 13, The Assistant, or The Setup. It's called The Setup. There's so many storylines in this episode. I got one confused. So this one is called The Setup. And the basic premise is Leslie, after her breakup with Officer Dave, is ready to get back into the dating market or dating scene. Scene would be better. And so she asks Anne to help set her up. And the first date is an experience.
A dating market, I think, would just be sad.
I think so too.
Like a Pike's Place market full of lonely people.
And like people wanting to see somebody throw fish but nobody actually wants to buy the fish. So they're just all standing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like a middle school dance. So, so that's the main story, is the Leslie story, and then we also have an undercurrent because Anne has a friend named Justin who is great at so many things. He's a lawyer, and Anne refuses to set Leslie up with Justin, so that creates some tension. But then also Ron is having trouble with the public, and he needs an assistant. And so that creates a storyline for Ron and for Tom and for April. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening in this episode. It seems like everybody except Donna and Jerry have major advances in their story in this episode.
It's true.
But, you know, you can't have all 9 people be engaged in every episode. Otherwise, it would be The Lord of the Rings. And those are very long movies. So
I'm for it.
I am too. I love
the Lords of Parks and Recreation. They should just go on a journey, all 9 of them.
I could get on board with that.
And fight orcs.
Who would be Legolas?
That's a good question. I would say I was going to say John Ralphio, but we need someone just a little bit more stoic than that. That's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
Chris Traeger. No, man,
Chris could be Legolas, sure.
Yeah. Legolas was like really awesome. Like he was active, but he was also just kind of stood there, like stone faced. Like he didn't really interact very much. I felt like.
Well, yeah, but he was never. He was probably the most optimistic. So that's why I would go with Chris.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. Our listeners have not watched anything with Chris yet. Okay. So they don't know what we're talking about. So we don't want to get too far ahead. And also, thank you for downloading our shows. And be sure to rate and review them on the iTunes or the Google Play or the Spotify or however you do that. Tell people about it. And so thank you for downloading and listening to us jibber jabber. So
this podcast sponsored by us.
Yeah. So far, that's it.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so the episode opens with Ron coming to Leslie and Anne, who are in the reception area of the parks department, and he says, "We have a problem. The original owner is suing the city. He thinks he got ripped off." And then he hands them the file with the information, and then subtly, I don't know if you caught this, he walks away. He doesn't sit at all to listen to anybody talk about anything. He just gives it to the thing, and then he just kind of sneaks away. Classic Ron.
Yeah, give it to your number one, like Leslie. Here, she'll handle it anyway.
Yes,
This is,
it was
well,
so
and
great.
she's in charge. I mean, it's Lot 48. It's her baby. It's her project.
Yeah, so I thought that was just so brilliant, and I this is the first time I'd noticed that he just kind of how he slinks away is just like, this is perfect. Nailed it, guys. And so they start talking about this lawsuit and going like, oh, what are we going to do? And so Anne says, my friend Justin is a lawyer. He can help us out. Oh, that'd be great. So that's cool. And then it cuts over to Ron, who snuck back into his own office. And he's just sitting there. And a gentleman comes in and he says, I want to talk to you about the amount of snow in the parks. Which is like, oh, okay. Like it's his fault that how much snow is in the parks.
Right.
And so Ron then cuts to a talking head and he's like, I used to never have anybody talk to me, but now because of a dumb, stupid public initiative, I have the public coming and talking right to me. And so people complain about the amounts of benches in Rancid Park, and they just say, I want to sit more. A lady brings her terrible pottery. She says, I made this in one of your parks department pottery classes. And he's like, oh, okay. It's terrible. And she throws it on the ground and smashes it like it's his fault that it's terrible. So many great things.
I love the lady who was talking about how she another thing that she really likes. So it's like she's been going on and on is the layout of the trails. So she's just been boring Ron with nothing. It's great.
Yeah. And Ron says, this is my hell. Like this is the worst thing that could possibly happen to him.
Do you know who's the guy on TV? I wrote the question down and then didn't look it up because I wanted to ask this to waste time. Who's the guy on TV, like the government TV guy that takes the phone calls from people? Do you know what I'm talking about?
On C-SPAN?
Yeah. Who's like that? That's what I feel like Ron, like that would be his hell. Like all these people call it. I don't even know what that show is, but that guy is just the most even keel nut jobs call in. And he's just like, yeah, yep. Okay. That's a great point. Next. Like, and people just yell at him. Oh, that's the show. And like, I would love to I just want to have that job for a day just to see how long it lasted.
Bill Scanlon.
Sure.
So the show, if I'm reading this right, I don't spend a lot of time watching C-SPAN. It's called Open Phones.
Yeah. Yes.
And he just, so like, I just pulled it up. I'm not wired in to play this well. But yeah, Bill Scanlon, host, and the website is not going anywhere. So host on C-SPAN with 2,703 videos in the C-SPAN video archive. The first appearance was in 2008 Call-In. So yeah, I think you're talking about that guy. And he doesn't
totally.
He doesn't answer any questions, right? He just takes the call. It's like, all right, thank you. Next call.
He's just a sponge for like the public's anger. Like people just call in and yell at him, and he can't do anything about it. It's like the worst job in the world. Like who decided, you know what, buddy? Like who did he make angry to have that job? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it is a government controlled, it's government funded, government controlled, neutral broadcasting is the intention of C-SPAN.
Sure.
So yeah, so somebody, maybe Mitch McConnell, he got Mitch McConnell real mad, and Mitch was like, well, this is what I'm going to have to say to you. You're the guy who's going to take the phone calls now. That's my Mitch McConnell impersonation. And
that's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't call him. That was me. Yeah, so that would be the worst, and Ron would probably melt if that were happening to him.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I had to bring that up. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but it's worth a watch for a little while, and then you just feel bad for him. Like you can physically see, like he's put his soul somewhere else for the time being, just because he's void. He's just yeah. Anyway, so yeah,
though, if you know your job is I'm not going to fix anything, I'm just going to sit here and listen to crazy, then I bet the job gets a lot easier.
Right.
If you're just like I can't fix you. So if he's not responding, he's just like, I'm just going to let these people have their say, and then I'll get paid. And then someday I will retire from this, and I'll just listen to my cats.
Yeah. And then I'll call in to the next guy.
Yeah, and maybe that guy goes off.
That'd be
He's
great.
just like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Next caller. This is your government. So all right. So then it cuts to the credits after Ron's like, this is my hell, and comes back. Anne is bringing lunch into the office for Tom and Leslie. And Tom's got a super low carb Caesar salad with nothing on it other than lettuce and chicken. And then Anne brings Leslie a sandwich that is on pumpernickel and it has olive juice and it's just disgusting. And Anne's like, wow, it's really nice that they named a sandwich after you, Leslie. And he's like, yeah, I wish I liked it. So that's gross. It's just sad. She wanted something named after her and she went for the worst possible sounding sandwich ever.
Because there's no more ingredients left.
Right.
Like they've all been taken by other sandwiches. Like what's left? What terrible combinations can we make here?
Yeah. And what would inspire somebody to put olive juice on a sandwich?
I don't know. That was what's left.
That really
someone
bothers
had already
me.
taken pickle juice.
Well, pickle juice, I don't know. I've heard people like pickle juice. You can go to the store and buy pickle juice right now. You shouldn't, but you could.
Okay. See ya.
Okay, bye. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like that would be a sandwich ingredient. I don't buy it.
That's what I'm saying.
And
There's none left. Like the good ones, all the good ones were gone. Like the leftover tuna fish salad juice. Like that's so somebody already took that.
It's so gross, dude. Everything about what you just said like made my whole stomach go upside down. Like,
you're welcome.
Like, I don't know if I'm going to throw up or if I have diarrhea. That's how I feel right now.
It could go either way, literally.
I hope not.
Justin is played by Justin Theroux.
Yeah,
Justin shows up, right?
Yeah, in a minute. You're going way too fast here, sir. Because Leslie is missing Dave. This is what gets the whole thing going. Dave left in the last episode. He was going to San Diego to serve our country, and so she's got a picture that Leslie's got a picture that she stole from the police department, and then Anne asks her about it. It's like, yeah, I really miss him, and she's like, Anne's like, let me set you up. Let me get you a new boyfriend, somebody to get your mind off of Dave. And so Leslie's like, I don't know, and we'll see. So that's cuts from there, and then April's coming in. It's after 10. She's late to work, and Jerry, first thing he says to her is, the printer is out of paper, and that's the only thing you do. And so,
whoa, Jerry, calm down, dude.
Yeah, Jerry is very sassy in this episode. So I don't know where the sassafras comes from, but he needs to knock it down a notch. He should smile more. And
later,
what?
He'll smile later.
When, in this episode?
No, later in the seasons, because he's not super sassy like this later on. So no, I think they're still trying to figure Jerry out a little bit.
I guess, yeah, that makes sense. But he was definitely not very nice in this episode. No. So as April is like putting paper in one sheet at a time,
not even poorly,
yeah, like all askew. Ron comes out and he's like, "Everybody, listen to me. April, stop what you're doing." And he says, "I need everybody to help me right now. I need to hire an assistant." And he gives April the job description for an assistant to post at her college. And the job description is a single piece of paper with these words: job, assistant to a man, low pay, apply at the parks department.
Yeah.
That's all it says.
I'm sold.
Like, this looks like a application for a serial killer. And then Tom's like, "Whoa, you get an assistant." He's like, "I've always had one. I didn't want one because it's a waste of money. And over the past 8 years, I've saved the taxpayers $150,000. But now I need the taxpayers' money to protect me from the taxpayers." And that made me laugh so hard because he's looking right at the camera and like, he's like, "You guys, tax people, the public, I don't want to talk to you." Which is
like,
great.
I deserve it. Like, he's justifying the fact, like, I don't want to talk to these people because I've saved them so much money, so I shouldn't have to.
Exactly. Yeah. He's so set in his ways that nothing can deter him. So then Leslie, Justin Theroux comes in and he is playing Justin, the lawyer, Anne's friend,
Mhm.
and he meets Leslie, and she's like, "What kind of law do you do? Civil lawsuits and that kind of stuff." And she's like, "Oh, I'd love to hear more about your cases." Talks about fire in a can, which she's like, she loves, and she starts singing the jingle and all this stuff. And they're like, "Don't buy that." And it's a blowtorch used to warm up baby bottles. So it's like, oh, yikes. Which, you look at the television, even in real world television, and there are some products where you're like, why is that a thing that you want people to get? Like, who needs that? Blowtorch for baby bottles. So
I lost you for a second. Could have been me.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I never lost me. So
okay.
Well, were you saying anything and all that?
No, I wasn't. I went to go get pickle juice.
Oh, delicious.
Yeah.
Delicious pickle juice.
Well,
so I was just talking about the blowtorch in the baby bottle.
I felt like I was right there.
Okay. And so Tom instantly has a man crush on Justin. He's like, wow, you're really rocking that suit. And he's like very interested in how Justin's dressing. And Tom is he's a fan of clothes. He's a closey. I don't know. Like a foodie is somebody who likes food. Is a closey somebody who likes clothes?
No.
Okay. Well,
a sartorialist?
I don't know what to call him then. Sartorialist? Sure.
All right. Is that a thing?
Yeah. I don't know what that is.
But he bought his suit right off the rack at Banana Republic. So
yeah,
he's like, boom.
Extra small.
I know clothes.
Yeah. So, So then it cuts to April, and she's at the shoe shine place, and Andy is polishing her purse.
Free of charge.
Free of charge. And she's like, I was late because I had to watch Swim Fan because it was on.
Yeah.
And
I get it.
And she's just like, I can't understand why anybody is so mad, and I can't wait till my internship's over so I can get out of here. And she's just, there's a huge shift that happens in April's perspective in this episode. So she tells Andy that he should start selling his CD at the shoe shine stand, and he's like, yeah, that's a good idea. So, and then he's like, I've been writing a lot of songs lately about shoe shining, and he's singing about, talking about, writing about what he's doing. He starts singing that song about how he's writing his song, and April is just like, the look on April's face is like, he's dumb but adorable,
right?
So, yeah. Also there is Kyle. Kyle's there. Kyle's always there.
Kyle's always there. He has the most scuffed up shoes in Pawnee.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, is it every day for him? Is he, like some people, they go to the same coffee shop every day. And likely it's because caffeine is an addictive substance and they keep coming back for more.
Mm-hmm.
Is he addicted to shoe shine fumes?
I'd hate to see his shoe shine budget.
Yeah. I mean, what's the real cost here, Kyle?
Yeah.
What's the real cost? And so
dignity, as we find out later.
Yeah. So Andy's got the great idea, going to sell his CDs. He's pretty excited. Cuts back to the parks department, and Anne comes in, and she's so excited to see Justin and hugs him. And it's like, we should get dinner. And it's like, I can't today, super busy. And then we realize that the way the camera work is here is like, it is revealed to us that Mark was there too. Mm-hmm. And Anne failed to introduce Mark to Justin. And even when Mark does introduce himself to Justin, he's like, hey, I'm Mark. And Anne says, he's the city planner.
Right.
Doesn't say, this is my boyfriend. It's like, he's the city planner. And you can see Mark is like, that's weird. It's bizarre way to introduce somebody. And then,
especially if he hadn't been the city planner.
Right. That would have been a real problem. And so Justin has to go because he's a super busy lawyer guy. So he leaves, and Leslie get together, and she's like, yeah, I'm ready to get set up. Set me up with one of your friends. And Anne's like, all right, I'm totally on this. And she's like, what about Justin? And Anne's like, no, I don't think that'll work. That's not a good idea.
Because you're great and he's great, but I just don't see it.
Yeah. 2 negatives make a positive, so 2 positives would make a negative. Duh.
Obviously. Yeah.
Doi.
Honey math.
so she's like, all right, I'll find somebody perfect for you, maybe a doctor, somebody. And as that scene's ending, Leslie says, whoa, real quick, I don't want to date a twin. I've been tricked before.
Oh,
Which is great. And there are several times where Leslie shares some terrible dates. And so I'm excited to talk more about those in the future. And then Tom offers to help Ron find an assistant. And as he's doing this, Ron destroys all the phones. That's what I wrote down in my notes. Ron destroys all phones.
I don't know about all phones. He definitely ripped his phone out of the wall because it rang. It just rang.
Right.
That was its only crime, doing its job.
Right. Because he's just so sick of the public. And then his cell phone rings and he smashes that with a hammer. And Tom says, "What? How do you know that wasn't your friend?" It's like, my friends know I have a strict no call policy. So it's like, why do you have this phone?
Also, Tom, I don't know if we've been keeping track, but if this is the start or it's happened before, but this is where Tom calls him Ron Solo. So I know Tom has pet names for everybody, like little nicknames, but they change. Mm-hmm. So
right.
I liked Ron Solo. Ron
Solo is a good one. And so there will be more of those. I don't think this was the first time, but the way this path goes for finding Ron an assistant and Tom's help is very much Tom Haverford. And so it's not a major plot point, but let's just talk about Tom real quick, because he gets applicants. And instead of asking them anything about their experience or their jobs, the first question he asks is like, which tie should I wear to a club opening?
Club opening, yeah.
And he's holding up two ties that are yellowish. And he's like, I don't know. I like the applicant's like, I like the one on the right. And he's like, wrong answer. And he pulls a purple tie from his pocket in his coat. And he's like, it should have been this one. He's like, I didn't know that one existed. So it's like, you're not going to work. Another one, he asks, if I meet a girl at a club and she gives me her number, what do I text to her the next day? And the guy says it was a great meeting. He's like, no, I don't text her for 8 weeks. And then I say, what's cracking? So we're learning more and more about Tom in all of this.
We should have known when he volunteered. Like, Tom doesn't volunteer for work. I mean, season 2, we're early in the series. Tom volunteered. We should have known something was up.
Yeah. Tom is trying to find somebody who's really actually going to do his work for him, if anything, but also try to raise Tom's social profile more than do anything for the Parks Department. So one of the interesting things, though, is as Tom is doing all this stuff and talking to these people about getting a girl's phone number at a club, he got divorced, but he's still wearing his wedding ring.
It's true.
And so it's one of those things where it's like Tom is having a hard time and he's trying to figure out where he belongs in this world. So
his place in this world, as it were.
Yeah. I mean, he's a big Michael B. Smith fan.
Looking for a reason.
Roaming through the night to find
his face in this world.
Exactly. So Ron destroys all the phones. So that's one path that we go down, is Tom trying to find these people.
With it. All the phones went down in this.
Yeah. And then Anne comes in and she's like, I found the perfect guy for you. And she's carrying a vial of blood. And Leslie's like, is that this guy's blood? It's like, no, dang it. Now I got to go back to work. And so she's setting him up with an MRI technician named Chris, who she thinks is going to be great. And so Leslie's like, all right, let's do this. This is going to be fun. And she's like, how will he know what I look like? Should I wear a red hat, have a red rose? Like, I don't have any of those things. And it's just so practical. I'll just tell him what you look like.
Yeah.
Perfect. So then it cuts to the restaurant and they start eating. And right away, it's really awkward. And the date, Chris, is played by Will Arnett, also known as Lego Batman, also known as the beloved Job on on Arrested Development, also known as Amy Poehler's ex-husband.
Yeah,
so it was shortly after this. I feel like they broke up. So I remember watching it and going like, oh, those two are actually married, and they've been in other stuff where they were the love interests, even in Arrested Development. They've played this way before. And then shortly after this episode of Parks and Rec, they ended their marriage.
No. Blades
Sadly.
of Glory. Didn't they play brother and sister in that?
They were in Blades of Glory. And their characters were romantically interested in each other, according to IMDb.
Okay.
But I have not seen that movie in a long time. But I do love that movie. It is very funny. When Will Ferrell is talking about his hairbrush, he says to Napoleon Dynamite, I don't think I could love a human baby as much as I love this brush. that made me laugh real hard in the theater. So, and the trick that they're trying to do, I think, is so deadly, it cut off the North Korean's head.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it now. That's a really funny movie.
Yeah. And the fact that ice skaters have stalkers.
Yes, Nick Swardson. I'm going to wear your skin.
I got to wear your skin as a mask. Yeah,
that's a good movie.
Classic.
Yeah. So
Jenna Fisher from The Office. So it all comes around. That's the link to the two Office Parks and Rec world right there.
Perfect. I knew you'd find a way.
Yep.
I knew you'd find a way.
Jenna Fisher plays Pam. That's Pam for people who don't know.
In The Office.
In The Office.
Yeah.
Beasley.
Mm-hmm. And Halpert. Same person.
Pam Beasley Halpert.
I think it's Beasley for a while, and then she just changes it to Halpert. I don't think she's hyphenated or the thing where sometimes the bride drops her middle name and her maiden name becomes her middle name.
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird thing that happens sometimes.
We have years till we get to that point, so.
Yeah. So I'm not worried about it. So at the date, right away, they're talking, and he's like, yeah, I went to Wisconsin, go Badgers. And it's like, no, boo, go Hoosiers. It's like, no, Badgers. So that's strike one in their relationship. And Will Arnett, or Chris, says this, like, strike one. And then they keep talking. It's like, so Ann told me you're in charge of amusement parks. That must be fun. It's like, no, just regular parks. I was like, oh, strike two. So he's making it awkward right away. And then he's like, he points it out. I was like, oh man, I made this whole thing really awkward. He's like, let's start over. I'm going to try to put out this fire with my fingertips on the candle. And so he like tries to pinch the candle like he's a super cool dude. And he burns his fingers. And then he's like, I need ice. And he puts his fingers in Leslie's water to cool down the burn that he gave himself because he's a complete doofus. Yeah. Any other things from that dinner experience that stood out to you?
No, that's all of the things.
All right.
Although I think this is the fanciest restaurant. Like, isn't this the one where when Leslie goes on the date with the old guy? It's the same restaurant, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think they
one restaurant.
They have one. Yeah,
they have 19 news outlets, but one restaurant. Well, I mean, nice restaurant.
Yeah, they have a couple bars.
Yeah, JJ's Diner. But this probably isn't the same restaurant where we just saw Dexhart either. So, they have more than one diner. That restaurant, that's fine.
I'm glad that's fine with you.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. So they cuts back. Mark and Ann are going to watch Marley and Me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that a happy movie?
Leslie calls. I wonder if it's a sign to us about the nature of their relationship.
Yeah, they
will die.
Can never have dogs.
Yeah. They can never have dogs. So Leslie calls and like, this is really weird. This is awkward. I don't really like this very much. And she's like, well, stick with it. Wait, I got ahead. Justin calls. That's Justin's calling there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Mark's like, who's that? It's Justin. Oh, yeah. Cool. Did you guys date? Like they get in. This starts a bit of a argument in their household about the nature of Ann's relationship with Justin. You know, it's never been romantic, never dated, but they are, it seems like from Mark's perspective that Ann is saving Justin for a future relationship for herself. And that is messed up.
No, you can't do that.
Yeah. And this is one of those times where I'm like, Mark, you're the voice of reason. You're the voice of wisdom. And I don't have to look at your face for much longer. So, because other than this episode, he's kind of the worst.
Oh, he still is. He still is in this episode.
What? He's the one who's right in this episode.
Yeah, for a little while, but then he does something coming up that just is like beyond. It's beyond evil. Just keep going. Keep going.
Okay. All right. So this is where it cuts to Tom interviewing the candidates. He's doing a terrible job, but it goes back to dinner, and Chris is like, hey, "Did you see The Matrix?" I was like, "Yeah." It's like 90% real, and so 99% real. So we're seeing more and more evidence that Chris is a crazy person. And then Leslie's like, "So tell me about being an MRI technician." It's like, "Oh, it's great. You can see inside everything. Like I could see that guy over there. I could look inside of him, inside this bread. I could look inside this bread." And Leslie's like, "Well, it'd just be more bread." And she rips it open. It's like, "See, more bread." It's like, there could be cheese inside that bread. So he's super awkward. And this is one of the things that Will Arnett does really well. Make things really awkward. And even that Lego show that you guys like.
That you guys like. I do like that show. I like everything about it except for Will Arnett. I really liked Will Arnett in Arrested Development. After that, the whole, like, once he starts playing the whole egomaniac in every single thing, it gets old. And then it's like, are you this way? And then you're
you
like,
are Job.
Yeah, you are. It's like, well, maybe it's just kind of sad. So
right.
Anyway,
yeah, we should feel bad for him,
I guess. At least he gets to look inside bread.
That would be a very expensive thing that chewing would solve. Like,
yeah,
I don't need to look inside this. I can just chew it.
He's a big Hollywood actor. Maybe that's his hobby.
Big time. He's got his own MRI machine like Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Tom Cruise has his own MRI machine?
I think so. I've heard rumors.
The Mr. I machine.
Yes. Did you watch Spaceballs with your kids yet?
Not with the kids.
Okay, because the Mr. Coffee and Mr. Radar.
They jammed the radar.
Oh, such a good show. So this is where Leslie says, "I've never even had an MRI," and Chris is like, "Are you kidding me? Oh man, we got to fix that." And so he offers to give Leslie an MRI for free.
What? And that's like $2,000.
Yeah, that's what he says. This is like $2,000. And so they go to the hospital to do the MRI and to
the Pawnee Diagnostic Imaging Center, because they showed the sign. No, I'm just saying, like, once again, Pawnee has its own. It's
yeah. So they have their own, like, not just like a medical clinic, but like specifically diagnostic imaging, which is it's an expensive endeavor.
Sure.
And so they either got a great grant from a local university, something, but how they have all this stuff, we'll never know. And so as he's talking about it, he's like, he says, "I don't want to invest in someone who only has 3 months to live." Like he's doing this not just for fun. He's like, "I want to know if you're actually healthy." It's like,
she chuckles. She chuckles and it's like, "Oh," and she's like, "Oh, you're serious."
Right. And then as she gets in, he's like, "Try not to move, try not to smile too much. Sometimes smiling is diagnosed as AIDS." So I am not an MRI technician, but I'm pretty sure that's not true.
Maybe it is in The Matrix. I don't know.
That's 99% real. And so then it cuts back to Tom interviewing another candidate. And he's like, "Listen, I'm like Rod Blagojevich. I got a job here and it's worth gold." And so he's trying to...
You don't just give that away.
Yeah. He's trying to leverage this assistant to a small town parks department job. And like, it's like super valuable. So, and then it comes back to Chris and Leslie, and Chris keeps talking and asking questions. Like, "You got to stop moving." Every time Leslie answers, like, "Please don't move. Please stop moving."
I told you 1,000 times.
Yeah. I told you 1,000 times. And then he's like, "Leslie, have you ever been pregnant?" He's like, "No." "Well, you got a great oven." So awkward.
Get a triplet right off the bat.
Yes. Now, I love the little callbacks in this show, and that little line there. Here's a spoiler. And I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you've already watched Parks and Rec. But later, it will be revealed that Leslie will indeed have triplets. Dun dun dun. Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
So, because triplets are pending doom, I would imagine. It seems like a lot of work, but yeah. So I just thought that was
start
right away. I just thought that was super fun. How here jokingly he's like, you could have triplets right off the bat, and then later they do. So good job, Leslie.
Someone's paying attention in the writing staff.
Right. Yes. And then Leslie, this is where Leslie calls in. Is like, this guy's crazy. This isn't working. And then apologizes. And she's like, I didn't really know him very well. I was like, then why did you set me up? Like, I don't know. You seem nice. He seems nice. And so then they go back and they're watching the scan. They're looking at the scan, and Chris is like, oh, this could be bad. And he's pointing at the brain. He's like, you better get that checked out. And Leslie is like worried because, this is terrible news. Something's wrong in her brain. And then he's just like, oh, wait. And he wipes off a smudge on the screen. He's like, wow, good. It's just a smudge or something. You're a smudge away from being wheeled out of here in a chair.
Thank God I was here.
Could you imagine drinking steak through a straw the rest of your life? Yeah. So he's terrible and claiming credit for things that he had nothing to do with. So, so then
Perfect.
Mark and Ann cuts back. Mark and Ann are fighting about Justin, and Ann trying to save him for himself. And as Leslie and Chris are leaving the hospital, Leslie's just like, look, I don't think we should see each other ever again. And Chris is like, oh, I see. You just want to get your free MRI and get out of the relationship. I see how it is. And so they're breaking up, but then he gets into her car.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, that's right. I drove here.
I must not be that great of a tech. I didn't realize you didn't have a heart.
Oh, so terrible. So bad.
But when Mark and Ann are watching the movie, and then that's when the whole thing comes out that he's saving, like Mark figures out, like, you're saving him for yourself. Why wouldn't you set him up with Leslie? And then they get into a fight, and he gets up and he just says, by the way, the dog dies in the end, and then leaves.
Right.
Completely spoils the movie. And that right there is the height of villainy in my mind. Like, that's one of the top things you just can't do to someone. Spoil movies. It's mean. You can't undo that. That's the worst.
No, he did that on purpose, and as like just right.
The worst.
Now, if someone were to do that in real life on accident, like, are you still saying they're the worst?
I would say they aren't. They're not self-aware. I mean, you need to. You talk about movies. It's a thing. It's like talking about taxes or religion and politics. You don't spoil the end of movies. You got to read the room. You got to make sure everybody has seen it before you talk about it. So you don't want to
spoil the end of religion.
Well, no,
I got it. No problem.
Or politics. I mean, hey.
Oh, please, somebody tell me how this ends. Somebody, I just need to know. I read a study. All right. Speaking of spoilers, I read a study that people who go into a movie blind, they're fine with it. Twist, great. But if you tell people, like a majority of people, like, hey, this is what happens, they actually end up enjoying the movie more.
I don't believe that. Because
they know what's happening, and so they're able to pay attention differently. So, like, if you knew in The Sixth Sense that Haley Joel Osment was dead the whole time, or not that Bruce Willis was dead the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
If you knew before,
it would have been a different movie.
It would have been a different movie, but you would have noticed things.
Actually, that was true. He was dead the whole time.
What?
Oh, yeah, no, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Haley Joel Osment wasn't dead.
He wasn't dead.
Bruce Willis was dead. Haley Joel Osment could see dead people. Bruce Willis being one of those dead people. Yeah. And then also in Lady in the Water, it turns out all those people in that hotel, they all work together to bring conclusion to the story at the end. They're all there for a reason.
Okay, I get it, but at the same time,
and then also in The Happening, you fell asleep because that movie was terrible.
That was the point of it. Yeah, the wind will kill you. No, basically, listen. the filmmaker wanted it to be a certain way, and if they wanted to withhold information, they could have just said like at the beginning of The Sixth Sense, like, oh, he's dead the whole time. Now pay attention and see how this is going to work. Like, that's not the point. The point is
that's what he did.
I know, but not. But nobody knew that going in, and that was the point of it.
But if you were just paying attention at the very beginning, you could have seen that.
But then you get to pay another ticket. Like you get to buy another ticket to go watch it again to then go see it. It's all marketing, man. You're going to break the system. If those
I felt
movies,
really bad.
They don't make money. They don't make movies.
They'll make movies. They're still making movies. The money's they'll still make the movies. I was going to go see Lincoln when it came out, but
spoilers.
12 years of history classes told me how that story ends.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh, there's a local lawyer who does DUI commercials.
Yeah.
And do you know who I'm talking about on the radio?
On the radio? No.
DUIOA. Anyway. And
yeah.
And one of them was, did you know that, putting a penny under your tongue doesn't do anything? The DUI machines are sophisticated technology. And besides, it's just going to make you look like an idiot. And hasn't Lincoln been through enough? I was like, that's a great joke.
That is amazing.
Yeah. He's been shot.
That's amazing on so many levels.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, was that ever a thing people were actually trying to do? Like,
because if you put a penny in your tongue, you could trick a breathalyzer into malfunctioning, so they couldn't get a proper reading. That was the old wives' tale that I'd heard growing up. Like when you're in high school and stuff. Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's really funny. Hasn't Lincoln been through enough?
It's good.
All right, where are we?
Leslie's last date. Can you pick up my kid at basketball? Chris asks Leslie as he gets into her car. And then, so the next day, Justin gets Leslie the documents.
Yeah. Okay. But before the documents happen, Mark shows up and asks Andy about Justin. And he's like, hey, did Anne ever talk to you about a guy named Justin? Like, oh yeah, I hate Justin. He's the worst.
Right.
And so right away, like Mark is like, all right, I came to you for advice because you seem like the most logical person to talk to in this situation. But then Andy, he says, don't tell Anne I talked to you. And then Andy immediately goes and talks to Anne.
Anne Perkins.
You should be ashamed of yourself. The way you're treating Mark, it's terrible. And so they start talking and he's like, all right, Anne, here it is. You got to choose me. It's me or Justin. Yeah. And she's like, wait, I'm dating Mark. It's like, I almost got you.
But I like that too, because April was right there and she was like, did you do something bad?
Right.
Like April not liking Anne has been going on for a very long time. So
right. So then Justin brings the paperwork and Leslie's like, wow, this is great. He uses the F word, frivolous. In the letter of suit. And so they are excited and they're wrapping up the meeting and he's leaving and Donna is impressed by everything about Justin. And she's like, why don't you like go after this guy? It's like, I want to go after that guy. But Anne's being real weird about it. So, and then Tom comes in with a wonderful suggestion for Ron's new assistant. And this is where we meet for the first time. John Ralphio. And he is amazing. He's all swagger and no substance.
Totally.
And he will come back many more times throughout this series. And he is one of my favorite parts of this whole show.
Agreed.
Is how ridiculous he is. He's like, yeah, he's just great. And so right away, Ron is like, I hate this. This guy's everything I want. And when John Ralphio leaves, he's like, he tells Tom, bring me the opposite of that.
I want to punch you in the face.
So Tom's like, okay, I get it. All right. And then it cuts back to the shoe shine place and somebody comes up and Andy's CDs are there. They're playing it. And he's like, oh, what kind of music is this? A guy comes up, is like, what kind of music is this? And April's like, it's the best. You need to listen to this. It's so good. and you should buy it. It's really, really popular. She's overselling Mouse Rat, but the guy buys a CD, and Andy's like, I like when you hang out here. And then it cuts right to April to saying, going into Ron's office and saying, I want to be your assistant. And I love Ron's response, like, you hate it here. And April's just like, so do you.
Yeah.
So, so she's like, I won't.
You don't have to go to any meetings. I'll scare people away.
Right. And everything that Ron wants an assistant. And April is promising to do that. And right away, Tom comes in trying to ask, his opinion of what the assistant should do. And April just closes the door on him. And Ron's like, you're hired. So
I love to clearly. Oh, go ahead.
Well, clearly this is because now April's like, all right, Andy is noticing me. I want to be in Andy's life. He's awesome. And if I stay here, I'll have more reason to be with Andy. So yeah. And you said I also.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I like when the guy was asking, well, what kind of music is it? And he's like, it's rock and roll. It's fast, smooth, handsome rock.
Handsome rock.
Handsome rock.
Yeah. So then Anne comes and she's confronted the truth of the way she has been acting with Justin and Leslie and Mark, and she feels bad. So she comes in and hands Leslie a piece of paper, and it is a prescription for somebody else. And she's like, dang it. And then she gives a different piece of paper that has an appointment, a date where Leslie and Leslie and Justin can meet and have dinner. And so that's cool. That's fun. And then Anne goes to Mark's office to apologize. And Mark accepts the apology and says, listen, I rented Deep District 9 and you can spoil the end of that for me. And he's like, he hugs her and then whispers something. She's like, oh man, what? And he's like, yeah, dark ending, right?
So, well, maybe she'll enjoy it more now when they watch it.
Maybe. I actually have District 9 on my DVR and I have not watched it yet. Oh, I've had it for like 2 years.
It's a very good movie.
That's what I hear. I just have never been in the mood for whatever this dark ending is.
South African alien insects, directed by Neil Blomkamp. It's a great film.
I've heard all these things. They look kind of like shrimp, is what I understand.
Yeah, they call them that in the movie.
Yeah,
it's like a slur.
Oh, whoops! Sorry, dudes.
Yeah, I like to when Oh, go ahead.
Well, I just feel bad now.
Oh well, they've been trapped on your DVR for 2 years, so you should. I like when April when she says like you're hired and it cuts to the like April's talking head and she goes what I figure I might as well get paid while I'm working here as an intern. So it's like even when she gets like we know why she's staying like the camera, but she still won't admit it. Like she won't say Andy. So I don't know.
Right. But the camera knows. The camera sees.
We see. We know.
The camera sees. So, so then Leslie goes and meets Justin for dinner. And my phone, I typoed the note. It says Justine, like Justin, like ING. Justing. Justine. I don't know what that means, but, and then the credit scene. April's hired.
Jason Bateman's sister.
Justine Bateman.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. That's totally what I meant. And then the credit scene, April is hired. She's sitting out at a desk outside Ron's door, and Jerry is not happy about this.
Yeah.
And he wants to go and talk to Ron, and April's like, what are you doing? You need to make an appointment. He's not here right now. And you can see Ron like at the window staring at Jerry. He's like, he's right there.
Jerry's angry because April just got hired and he's got a bigger desk and she's got a bigger desk than him.
Right.
Which is great. It's like so on point as to Jerry's character. Like he can't win. He's been there how many years? And then April's like, and then she gets the giant desk.
Right. It's so good. And like, she's not doing anything. And like, Ron is standing right there. And Jerry's like, I can see he's not busy. I can see he's here. And she's like, he's not in. I'll tell you when he's available. And, and so Jerry walks away. And like, it's like, I think this is when April broke Jerry. Like,
oh, right. Like, that's it.
Like, this is it. Like, he's like, I can't win. Whatever. I can't win at this department. And Ron is pleased by April's defensive scheduling. So, yeah,
at a girl.
At a girl. It's so good. And you can hear him. You can hear him through the window.
Yeah. So he heard everything Jerry said too. So it's like,
yes,
he could have come out. What do you need, Jerry? Nope.
He needed the taxpayers' money to protect him from the taxpayers. And the first taxpayers are his very employees.
Right.
So, yeah. So it's so perfect. The way we introduce Ron in this episode, he hands stuff off and retreats. And now he is in his shelter of an office. So it's so
That's what
good.
he wants. Yeah.
So good. So, there were a couple things. I pointed out that Tom was still wearing his wedding ring.
Mm-hmm.
The triplets thing. Yeah. All right. That's all the trivia that I had on this episode. So, yeah. Anything else that stood out to you for the setup?
Just this was a really fun episode. I mean, it was really well written. A lot of things came back from the beginning to the end of the actual episode, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we got to see a lot of the characters. Everybody got a line at least. We got introduced to John Ralphio for the first time, who's fantastic. April got to be super sarcastic. Andy got to be goofy. So we really got all of the Parks and Rec flavor in this one episode. So yeah, it was a great episode.
Concur.
What did it get on IMDb? Like at 8.1 or something?
8.1.
Yeah.
Next week.
Well earned.
Yeah. Next week is Leslie's House, and that's an 8.0. And I think I would put Leslie's House higher than this one. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. Well,
I don't know how 8.0 got rated here, but
there's no accounting for bad taste. So
that's great because that's in next week's episode. That's
a
forward promotion, folks.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, smart. Oh my gosh, that one is. Oh, we meet Barney.
Yeah, it's great.
So yeah, see what's happening in this season as we meet all of these Pawneans.
Yes.
Like they come back over and over and over again, and it's so great. Even the lady who will do the cooking in next week's episode,
yeah,
like she's the one who runs Sue's salad, and everybody hates salads in Pawnee. It's so good.
Yeah,
so good.
So you and I talked about this a long time ago about how this show there's a lot of shows out there, but this is one of the shows that has some of the best like tertiary characters, like the people that kind of filter in and out from the community, because Leslie and Ron and even most of the office are probably their primaries. You got Donna and Jerry as kind of secondary ones, and then there's all of these crazy characters that they just keep bringing back, and they're so well written. They have their own lives. I mean, Barney is awesome. Like he kind of has his own arc in a sense. Like it's great. And so I just don't think, when we talked about this a long time ago, there aren't a lot of shows that do that. I know like Seinfeld had some really great characters, and yeah, this is one of the reasons why like I really like Parks and Rec, is not just the main cast, but all of the awesome, the well-written side characters.
Right. Yeah. It's a town.
Yeah.
And they do a good job of making it actually feel like a town. And a couple of weeks ago, I had a reason to pay attention to a city council meeting.
Okay.
In the real world, and so I was watching this meeting, and I was just like, man, some of these guys could be in Pawnee,
right?
Some of these people they really would fit right in, because there's all kinds of crazy. So,
yeah, and that's in the normal world, and then you tack on the point that Pawnee in and of itself is kind of defies its own like regular logic, like the people. So when you introduce characters who want to be thrown into a lake because of tradition, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like that's something. Right. But like we've said before, we also have a guy who measures the temperature and cut off jeans in Edmonds. So
every day.
So they're out there, and it's great. And I think it makes, if you like a show for that, look for them out in the world, because they're there, and it makes it more interesting. I mean, be careful, because you don't know which one might be a psycho, but
they all might be. Can I tell a funny story?
Please.
Not about Pawnee, but just about being in the world and seeing people. So I've been jogging in the morning.
I'm sorry.
Well, I've been doing it because my wife is a great cook, and I could either not eat the things she cooks or exercise and eat the things she cooks.
You made the wise choice.
I did. Yeah, she's always amazed when I'm like, no, everything you make is good. And she's like, really? Like, I'm eating it. So yes. So I go jogging on the same loop basically every day when it's not raining. And yesterday in the afternoon, I was walking my dogs. And so I was off my normal schedule, but it was not raining. So I was like, okay, the dogs need to get out. They need to walk. It's going to be great. So I'm walking down the street, and it's a neighborhood called Wood Trails. And I am walking down the hill there, and a car like pulls behind me and slows down. And right away, I'm like, I'm going to get shot by a paintball again. Because it's happened to me. Yeah. So, but instead, and I'm listening to podcasts on my AirPods. And so I'm not like, I don't really want to have a conversation with anybody, but they stop like right there. And when they roll the window down, and this lady's like, do your dogs not like to run? I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, you're the guy who runs every morning, right? Like, yeah, I do. And like, why don't you bring your dogs? Like, oh yeah, this is all weird.
You're that guy. You're that guy to that lady.
I'm that guy. And so now, like, I was like, I have two dogs. I have a big dog and a little dog. Big dog could run all day. Little dog, no interest in running whatsoever. Barely any interest in walking. Like, she will go up the hill from our house and then like, is that enough?
Bailey's kind of a drag.
Yeah, she literally is a drag. There are times where we are dragging her. So I'm getting her rollerblades. So like, there are people out in the world that you're just like, what is your story? You know? And so I think I might be for that lady. What's his story? I see him all the time. What's his story? And it's just like, I'm just running because I want to eat more biscuits. So
that's the story.
Yeah.
But people will never know that. Like,
no. So they're going to make up their own story. It's like, he's been running a lot, but he's not losing any weight. Maybe he has an affliction. So
this is as funny, but one of my very good friends, Dave, adopted 3 kids from Haiti, and they don't, they're all black. He's white, and he would take them, all 3 of them, in a stroller with his small dog, Mac, and he would walk the Edmonds waterfront like every day. And all I'm saying is, Dave is a fantastic person, but if you look at him, you're just going, what's his story? What's going on here? Why this guy at 10:30 in the afternoon, three beautiful kids and a dog just walking the Edmonds waterfront? And I could go on, but yeah, it's pretty amazing. There are interesting people out there for sure.
For sure. So I think that's one of the things that I love about what they do in Pawnee is like, these people are in your town. But you've got to pay attention. And if you want amazing stories, if you want to like interact with the world, like, get out there, pay attention, see what's going on. So
that's your homework till next episode. There you go. Boom.
Yeah. Go outside and don't get COVID. So I think that's a good way to end it.
All right. Sounds good. All right.
Okay. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.